Hello and welcome to Taiwan Part 4. Who holds the cards? The role of the US and its allies. What would they actually do in a conflict? In Part 3, we touched on Taiwan's military vulnerabilities and necessity of external support for its survival. Now we must explore what the US and its allies would do if a conflict broke out between Taiwan and China. Would they intervene directly or would they remain on the sidelines? The world's response to a Chinese invasion of Taiwan could shape the future of the island and redefine the global order. U.S. commitment, strategic ambiguity versus direct involvement. The Taiwan Relations Act, TRA, provides a legal framework for the U.S. to assist Taiwan in the event of an invasion, but it doesn't guarantee direct military intervention. The U.S. policy of strategic ambiguity has deterred China from acting too aggressively, as Beijing knows that an invasion could trigger U.S. involvement, but the exact nature of that involvement remains unclear. If China makes a move, would the U.S. opt for full-scale intervention, or would it focus on diplomatic solutions and economic sanctions? Military support. The U.S. military could deploy carrier groups, submarine fleets, and air support to Taiwan, providing critical defense in the event of Chinese airstrikes or a naval blockade. Strategic considerations. Given the economic and military ties between Taiwan and the U.S., particularly through semiconductor production, the U.S. might face significant internal pressure to protect Taiwan. Taiwan's global economic importance makes it even more urgent priority for the U.S. to maintain stability in the region. Japan's role. Japan, as Taiwan's closest neighbor, has strategic interests in ensuring Taiwan's sovereignty. Japan is unlikely to sit idly by in the face of a Chinese invasion. Japan's self-defense forces could offer logistical support, intelligence sharing, and potentially air or naval defense. However, Japan's constitution limits its military engagement. Yet, Japan is deeply integrated into the Indo-Pacific security architecture, and any attack on Taiwan would likely trigger Japan's security response, either directly or indirectly. European and other global powers. European countries, while geographically distant, have strong economic ties to Taiwan and strategic interests in countering Chinese aggression. The European Union, alongside NATO members, might impose sanctions on China or provide diplomatic support to Taiwan, though direct military intervention is less likely. That said, an attack on Taiwan would have significant repercussions on global markets and trade, drawing greater attention to Taiwan's importance. Taiwan's path forward: independence, status quo, or showdown. The future of Taiwan lies in a delicate balance. Over time, Taiwan has developed its own sense of national identity, but it remains caught in the struggle between maintaining the status quo and moving toward full independence. Taiwan's political landscape is divided between these two views. Some factions desire greater autonomy and recognition, while others prefer to maintain the status quo and avoid provocation. Taiwan's domestic politics: independence or status quo. The Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, currently in power, has pursued a more pro-independence agenda, seeking to assert Taiwan as a fully sovereign nation. This approach has garnered international support from like-minded democracies, but it has also drawn increased pressure from Beijing. On the other hand, KMT has traditionally favored maintaining the status quo, rejecting both formal independence and unification with China, while trying to avoid confrontation with Beijing. Pro-independence sentiment. As Taiwan becomes more self-assured in its democracy, public opinion is leaning more toward asserting a greater autonomy and international recognition. However, full independence could provoke an immediate military response from China, potentially leading to a military conflict. The status quo. Maintaining the status quo allows Taiwan to continue functioning independently, but it also keeps Taiwan in a constant state of political limbo, unable to fully assert its sovereignty on the international stage. Cross-strait relations. While Taiwan seeks more recognition, Beijing maintains its claim that Taiwan is an inalienable part of China. The question becomes whether Taiwan can continue its efforts to maintain its independence, or will it be forced into a situation where military confrontation becomes the only option? Taiwan's future, a showdown or diplomatic solutions. The future trajectory of Taiwan largely depends on how the U.S., China, and Taiwan itself approach the question of sovereignty and regional power dynamics. A risk of showdown and inevitable conflict. Taiwan's fate could ultimately rest on a military showdown. If China perceives Taiwan moving toward formal independence, or if external support for Taiwan increases to a level China deems intolerable, Beijing could take more drastic measures to reunify the island. The military advantage China holds, coupled with Taiwan's limited defenses, make it an ever-present risk. The outcome of such a conflict could reshape regional security, the global balance of power, and redefine the U.S.-China relationship. A military intervention. A military intervention by the U.S. or Japan would escalate conflict into a full-blown war, with implications for global trade, security, and economic order. Consequences of such a confrontation could have far-reaching effects that last for decades, similar to the Cold War dynamic between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. The diplomatic path. While military confrontation remains a serious risk, there are also diplomatic solutions to explore. If Taiwan can achieve greater recognition and international support without provoking China into an aggressive military response, a diplomatic settlement could emerge. This might involve reaffirming Taiwan's de facto independence while negotiating with Beijing on trade, security, and regional cooperation. U.S.-China diplomacy. The U.S. has long walked a fine line between supporting Taiwan's democracy and avoiding direct military conflict with China. It is likely that diplomatic efforts will continue to focus on finding a balance between deterrence and peaceful resolution. Global implications. How Taiwan's future shapes global power dynamics. Just as Ukraine's geopolitical position has reshaped European security, Taiwan's future is poised to have massive implications for the Indo-Pacific region and global geopolitics. How Taiwan's sovereignty is handled could define future relations between the U.S., China, and global democracies. The U.S.-China competition. Taiwan is a strategic flashpoint in an ongoing U.S.-China rivalry. The U.S. has a vested interest in ensuring Taiwan's continued autonomy, as it would set a precedent for future Chinese military expansion. For China, a successful invasion of Taiwan would mark the culmination of its territorial ambitions and solidify its power in the region. Economic and security alliances. Taiwan's fate could solidify or reshape security alliances in the Indo-Pacific. Countries like Australia, Japan, and South Korea would likely bolster military cooperation with the U.S., forming a greater strategic bloc to counterbalance Chinese power. Conversely, if Taiwan were to fall, the US and its allies would face a new era of Chinese dominance in the region, leading to profound changes in global trade, security, and military strategy. Taiwan's path forward, a world at a crossroads. Taiwan's future is defined by the interplay of military capabilities, international diplomacy, and the geopolitical interests of global powers. Its sovereignty is under constant threat, but Taiwan's position is also a critical piece in the broader US-China strategic competition. Whether Taiwan moves toward independence, maintains the status quo, or faces a showdown with China, its path forward will determine not only the future of regional security, but also direction of global power in the coming decades.